Terrifying cursed tales from the deep woods, uncover sinister secrets exposed under dark trees, the wind whispered through the pines, carrying secrets told in hushed breath. Flickering shadows danced as Sarah pulled into her driveway, her late shift's exhaustion weighing her down. Crime rates had soared in Pine Hollow, and her quaint escape now felt like a trap. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the chaos of her life fade, but the stories she heard danced in her mind, a haunting echo, cursed woods that swallowed children whole, innocent lives lost to dark forces. She shivered despite the warm air of summer. Just days ago, Mrs. Hodge grimly warned her, "You hear those branches creak, don't you? That's when the woods want something." Those were the words that chipped away at her resolve. The whole community felt on edge, each neighbor glancing nervously at the trees that loomed closer, smothering their homes. As she entered her house, darkness greeted her like a foreboding embrace. Jamie, her young son, waited for her in the living room, eyes wide with excitement. "Mommy, guess what? Timber says hi," he exclaimed, his small voice echoing in the silence. She laughed nervously, trying to shake off the unease tying her stomach in knots. Imaginary friends were typical at Jamie's age. She reminded herself of that as she tucked him into bed, but still, dread seeped into her veins. That night, sleep eluded her. She tossed and turned, grappling with the day's shadows. Then, the house creaked, a slow, deliberate sound that sent her heart racing. Every creak was heavy with a weight she couldn't name. Her breath quickened, fingers trembling as she crept to Jamie's room. He was fast asleep, murmuring Timber's name softly. A chill shot through her. Was it possible the whispers she heard were true? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Dread gnawed at her, but morning came, and with it, a brief sigh of relief. But the pressure didn't lift. Days turned into nights filled with Jamie's off-putting behavior. Each mention of Timber made her skin crawl, and her intuitive maternal instincts screamed for her to take action. The whispers continued, woven deeper into the fabric of Pine Hollow, revealing a darkness she never knew existed. One evening, meeting Mrs. Hodge for tea, she caught the older woman glancing nervously out the window towards the trees. "You just gotta keep him inside after dark, dear," she muttered cryptically, her voice shaking. "Bad things happen in the dark." The words rang ominously, lodged deep within the recesses of Sarah's mind. The strangeness continued. Objects positioned out of place, flickered lights, hushed whispers in the dark. Each occurrence chipped away at her sanity. Panic echoed in her chest as she battled uncertainty. The woods weren't just a threat, they were real, alive, calling out to Jamie. Sarah's heart raced as she prepared to delve into the mysteries of the overwhelming trees that loomed closer each day. With every step she took toward uncovering the truth, a profound dread filled her soul. The truth was terrifying, but she wouldn't allow the woods to claim her child. As she glanced out the window, shadows stirred beneath the trees, and a chilling realization swept over her. Timber was no ordinary friend. The woods had awakened something sinister, and she was running out of time. The night air crackled with anticipation, and the woods, hungry and expectant, beckoned Jamie's name. What horrors awaited her just beyond the door? The next morning brought a heavy blanket of dread that clung to Sarah like a fog. The shadows were deeper, the trees more menacing. Jamie was unusually quiet at breakfast, his cereal forgotten as he stared out the window, his expression blank. She followed his gaze but saw nothing, just the endless expanse of dark woods, standing tall and silent, as if waiting for her next move. "Mommy? Can we go see Timber today?" he asked, his voice just above a whisper. The question pierced her, sending a jolt of ice through her veins. "No, sweetheart. It's not safe out there," she replied, her tone firmer than she felt. The memory of Mrs. Hodges' warning loomed larger: bad things happen in the dark. The woods were alive, breathing, hungry for something only they knew. Determined to shield Jamie from whatever was creeping closer, she decided it was time to dig deeper into the mysteries of those cursed trees. Sarah pulled out her phone and searched for any news or legends about Pine Hollow's woods. She found tales of children who wandered off into the forest, missing without a trace, their names whispered in fear by anxious parents in the village, each tale a deeper pit of despair. "Mommy?" Jamie's voice broke through her haze of research. "Where are you going?" He stood at the door, the picture of innocence, but something in his eyes sent a shiver down her spine. "I'm just looking for something, honey. Why don't you play with your toys?" She tried to coax him away, but he stepped into the hallway. "I want to go outside." His excitement faded to desperation, almost like he was begging. "Not today." "Stay inside, Jamie," she insisted, irritation sharpening her voice. His face fell, and she felt a pang of guilt. But the woods beckoned. She couldn't let him wander near it. She had to protect him. Hours stretched on. Darkness began to unfurl again, casting long shadows across the living room. She called Jamie for dinner, but he didn't respond. Panic struck as she rounded the corner, her skin tingling with dread. "Jamie!" she shouted, heart pounding. No answer. She rushed towards his room, but the door was ajar. The darkness inside seemed to breathe, and her pulse quickened as she peered into the gloom. The bed was empty. "Jamie!" she cried, voice trembling now. She bolted down the hall and flung open the back door. The chill of the evening air hit her like a slap in the face. "Jamie!" she yelled again as her eyes scanned the yard, the edge of the trees looming ominously. And then she saw it, a flash of white, a thin form skipping across the grass toward the treeline. "Wait!" she screamed, her heart in her throat. She tore after him, adrenaline surging, her feet pounding against the earth. "Timber!" he called, laughter spilling from his lips, that innocent joy mixing with something twisted that made her heart drop. He was getting closer to the woods, and all at once, she felt the weight of the trees pressing down on her. Desperation clawed at her as she reached the fringe of the trees, branches scratching at her arms like desperate fingers. "Jamie, come back," she cried, her voice echoing in the suffocating stillness. And that's when she saw it, a shadow slipping behind the trunks, a figure, darker than the night itself, waiting for her son. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears as she lunged forward, reaching for Jamie. "Don't go in there." But a hollow laughter danced through the air, and the woods shivered. The dark figure drew closer, and something within the trees stirred in response. Fear wrapped around her like a vice, and just before they were engulfed, she felt a cold wind pull her back, making her stumble. What had the woods awakened? What bond did timber share with the darkness? Sarah hesitated, her breath ragged in her throat, the woods offering a ghastly answer, one she was not ready to confront. With a rush of panic, she turned to run, but the shadows twisted, blocking her escape. "Mommy!" Jamie's voice pierced through, distant and echoing, fading into the darkness. The woods called with an insatiable hunger. She was no longer sure who was deceiving whom. It was clear that all the ominous tales she had brushed off were about to shatter the fragile safety she had always known. As the tendrils of darkness reached for her, Sarah realized she had one last chance. How far would she go to save her son from the grasp of those cursed trees? Would she walk into the darkness or flee? The answer pulled at her fiercely as desperation clawed at her mind. And just before she let the fear consume her, she made her choice. But would it be enough to counter the creeping horror lurking just beyond the treeline? Sarah's lungs burned as she stumbled back from the trees, the chill of their shadow tightening around her. "Jamie!" she cried, her voice bouncing off the gnarled bark. The words felt lost, carried away by an unseen current that charged the air with despair. Heart pounding, she spun around, desperate to retrace her steps, but the woods were alive, shifting, embracing her in their twisted limbs. It was as if every branch whispered her name, echoing her fear back at her, taunting her helplessness. "Mommy." Jamie's voice came again, clearer now, a plea filled with oblivious innocence. Her instinct was to chase the sound, but instinct also screamed that nothing could be trusted here. Was it truly her son, or was it a malevolent echo trying to lead her to the heart of the darkness? She hesitated, torn between the urgency to save Jamie and the foreboding that gripped her heart. The laughter from before ricocheted in her mind, swirling like smoke. What if Timber was no innocent creature? What if he was a lure, sent to trap them both further into the depths? Taking a deep breath, Sarah stepped forward, determination replacing her fear. She focused, ignoring the shadows that darted behind the trees. "I'm coming, Jamie," she called, voice stronger now, defiant. As she pushed deeper, branches snagged at her clothing, their grip more insistent, as if trying to pull her back. Somewhere ahead, she glimpsed the flicker of movement, a flash of white darting between the trees. "Jamie?" "No, a phantom." "Jamie!" She yelled again, fearing for the answer but needing to shout it. As if her call summoned them, the air thickened, and shadows began shifting with purpose. A low, rumbling growl emanated from the depths of the woods, vibrating through the ground and shaking the very roots beneath her feet. The trees whispered secrets she could not understand, rustling their leaves in a sinister rhythm that sent chills up her spine. But she had to move. It was now or never. She pressed on, pushing through the underbrush, her heart pounding as the frantic echoes of Jamie's laughter rattled in the confines of her mind. Each sound felt like a puzzle piece in a dark game she hadn't signed up for. Then, just ahead, she saw him, Jamie, standing at the foot of an ancient tree, one twisted and cracked, darker than any around. Its gnarled branches clawed at the night sky, as if trying to escape the very soil it rooted in. Her heart soared for a moment, battling against the terror that gripped her. "Jamie!" she gasped, breaking into a sprint, arms outstretched, desperate. "Come back." But he didn't move. Instead, he stood still, gazing up at the tree with an almost reverent expression. There was something unnatural about the way he stared, his eyes wide, lost. The white flash was now swirling ethereal mist around him, leaving a faint glow at the tree's base. The sensation of dread crashed over her like a wave. "Jamie, please!" she begged, fear flooding her voice. "Get away from there." His head slowly turned, and when their eyes met, she felt ice slice through her veins. It wasn't Jamie looking back. Not entirely. There was a darkness there, something that had seeped into him, twisting that innocent joy into something sinister. And as if responding to their connection, the shadow from the tree began to writhe, a tendril of darkness spiraling down to the ground, moving toward Jamie, beckoning him closer. "Run!" Her instincts screamed, but she was frozen, her body caught in the paralyzing grip of fear, watching as the woods reached for her son. "Mommy!" He called once more, but this time, it sounded so far away. She was losing him, the forest consuming him inch by inch. Desperation tore through her. Without a second thought, she dashed forward, drawing from some deep well of strength she did not know she had. But the ground quaked, and the branches whipped violently, as if the woods were angry at her defiance, trying to shake her off like a pesky fly. "Let him go!" she shouted, the words ripping from her throat with raw fury. The shadows surged, forming grotesque shapes, all of them closing in. The moment stretched, her heart pounding wildly, echoing in her ears. She would not back down. With a sudden flash, the darkness surged forward, a wave of cold sweeping around her, as hollow laughter danced on the wind. "Jamie!" She lunged, grasping at his hand, desperate for a tether, but as she did, the roots erupted from the ground, coiling around her ankles, dragging her down. The world tilted, everything fading into shadow as the forest roared in delight. What darkness had it hidden all this time? And would she ever reach Jamie before it truly consumed him? The ground swallowed Sarah whole. Panic consumed her as the roots tightened, pulling her toward the hungry earth, which anticipated her despair. She struggled against the cold embrace, clawing at the soil, but it was futile. The forest rattled, its laughter echoing sinister and mocking as if feasting on her fear. "Mommy!" Jamie's voice rang out again, crisper now, but it was laced with something chilling unearthed dread. Her heart raced, pounding against her ribcage, fighting to break free as she felt the pull of the shadows. Would she lose him completely? The roots released and yanked back as she surged forward, propelled by pure instinct. "Jamie!" She cried again, and this time her voice was a raw scream filled with desperate hope. She jerked forward as the last of the roots unwound, propelling her from their grasp. But the darkness flexed angrily, a palpable force surrounding her, and as she glanced back, her eyes widened. What she saw sent a deep chill rushing through her bones. The tree now loomed above her, its branches twisting and turning like skeletal fingers, reaching for both her and Jamie. Ahead, Jamie stood still, entranced, with those haunting eyes that no longer recognized her. The poignant innocence that once filled them was drained, replaced by an unsettling vacancy. He began to turn slowly, entranced by the shadows that danced around him, melding with the white mist. "Don't go near it. Come back!" Sarah shouted, panic clawing at her throat. But he didn't move. The air thickened, and the whispers returned, a cacophony of voices that surged from the roots and branches. Join us, join us." The words were sticky like tar, wrapping themselves around her mind, making her hesitate. "Jamie!" she pleaded, but as each moment passed, his image blurred, the white mist cloaking him like a shroud. Something was altering him. Something dark. With gritted teeth, she forced herself to pivot, seeking any path that could guide her toward him. As she stepped deeper into the shadows, creatures began to emerge, grotesque forms woven from nightmares, crawling from the underbrush. Their eyes glinted with malice, eager to witness a mother's suffering. "Please. Let my son go." Her voice trembled, raw and hoarse, now barely above a whisper. Suddenly, with a wild determination, she lunged again, racing toward the ancient tree, its shadow clawing and reaching, trying to claw her closer. The creatures scampered back, hissing and snarling, as if her defiance had instilled fear among them. In that instant, she saw Jamie's sweet smile flash in her mind, and rage burned through her like fire. "I won't leave you," she roared, ignoring the creeping sense of despair. That energy surged through her as she sprinted forward, a burst of light in the enveloping dark. She had to reach him. She pushed past the whispering spirits and emerged almost at the tree's base. Jamie stood, still entranced, yet she could feel the warmth radiating from him, a beacon amidst the cold. "Grab my hand," she shouted, reaching toward him, time stretching agonizingly as the shadows writhed. But the closer she got, the weaker he seemed, the glow around him diminished. Just as she felt her fingertips brushing against his small, warm palm, the sinister whispering swelled louder, drowning out reason. Jamie's eyes locked onto hers, and for a fleeting moment, he seemed to return to her. "Mommy!" he screamed, but it morphed quickly into a chilling giggle, the sweet voice twisted by a malevolent force. The shadows surged, the ground trembling as the roots turned and struck like snakes, pulling the earth apart. In that moment, she knew it would cost everything to save him. "Let him go!" Sarah screamed, feeling the energy coiling around her heart, shaking her resolve. But the earth erupted. The roots shot forth, grasping at her like 1,000 icy fingers, dragging her back down into the depths of darkness. She fell, tumbling, and as she plunged into the shadows, she realized with horror that the laughter of the forest had grown louder. What had she awakened? Would she and Jamie be forever trapped? In this malevolent embrace? As her vision blurred into darkness, a question echoed in the void: would she succumb to the very terror she sought to conquer? The fall lasted forever. Sarah felt time stretch and warp in the darkness, her body weightless, trapped in a void filled with whispers that gnawed at her sanity. Shadows twisted and tangling around her, each one whispering indistinguishable horrors, each thought clawing away at her will to fight. Then, like a slap to the face, she landed hard on the ground, earth-packed mud cushioning her fall but still sending a shock through her body. She gasped, rolling onto her back, heart racing, but knew she had to move. Above her, the muted light of the forest clouds only barely filtering through made her skin crawl. The roots had retreated, but a deep-rooted feeling of dread gnawed at her gut. "Jamie!" she cried, her voice echoing into the oppressive stillness. No response. Just a eerie silence heavy enough to suffocate. Panic surged in her chest again. She forced herself to stand, swaying unsteadily. Suddenly, she spotted a movement in the dark, a flicker of something in the corner of her eye. She turned sharply and her breath caught. A figure stood at the edge of the clearing, shrouded in shadows. "Who's there?" The words came out weaker than she intended, like a small child lost in a dark room. The figure stepped toward her, its face obscured, a mask of darkness rather than flesh. "Do you seek your son?" The voice was a raspy whisper, filled with ancient malice. "Where is he? What have you done with him?" She stepped toward the figure, the urge to charge behind her fear. Its laughter was chilling, resonating within her skull. "He is where all lost things go, where hope is devoured." "No!" Sarah shouted, rage mingling with despair, her emotions swirling like a tempest. "I want to let him go. Take me to him." Such determination, but can you face the truth? The figure dissolved into shadows, gliding back, trailing cold whispers that wrapped around Sarah like a tightening noose. "Truth?" she echoed, anger fueling her heart. "There is no truth that could possibly make me abandon my son." The darkness seemed to respond, vibrating with a sinister energy, and from the shadows surrounding her, countless eyes blinked open, each one filled with a malevolent hunger. They watched, silent witnesses to her torment. A sudden realization hit her: she wasn't alone. The forest itself was breathing, alive with death and despair, and it was waiting for her to break. "I refuse!" she shouted defiantly, forcing her feet forward. With each step, the trees shifted, branches creaking like whispers against her skin. They extended, a labyrinth leading deeper into the heart of the woods, where the shadows clawed toward her with a wild blow. Images flickered in her mind: the tree, Jamie, the twisted laughter. They were linked, bound by unknown threads. Just then, she heard it again, Jamie's voice. "Mommy." It was faint, a distant echo, yet it ignited a fire inside her. She pushed on, ignoring the pulsing dread that felt like cold claws digging into her back. "Hold on, my baby. I'm coming." But the shadows thickened, wrapping around her, tugging her at every step. "You'll never escape," a chorus of voices hissed, merging back into the forest's breathing. "Join us or be consumed." Desperation clawed through her. She tightened her fists, feeling the warmth of Jamie's energy somewhere within the grasp of this vast malevolence. "I will find you." She screamed into the darkness, her voice piercing through the cacophony. In that fleeting moment, she felt something shift, a flicker of light amidst the dark. But was it a beacon or a trap? Doubt surged through her. What was she truly fighting against? Sarah raced heart first into the darkness, feeling the shadows reach for her again as the trees swayed, whispering her fears back at her. You're lost, you're lost." As she ventured deeper, she realized she wasn't just fighting a force, she was battling her own fear. The very thing that gnawed at her heart was beginning to manifest. Would she find Jamie before it consumed her? Or had she already lost him to whatever darkness resided in that cursed forest? The air grew heavier, laden with a sinister possibility. Ahead, a faint glow beckoned, twinkling like a star wrapped in shadows. But suddenly, the forest shuddered violently, branches slashing at her as she stumbled. A chilling laugh echoed from behind, reverberating off of every tree, shaking her resolve. Join us, they sang, a haunting melody she could not ignore. Fueled by determination, Sarah pressed on. Yet every shadow seemed to whisper the same taunting words: you will never escape, you will pay the price. What awaited her beyond the flickering light? Would it be salvation or the very end she feared? The light flickered like a dying star, casting long, jagged shadows across the forest floor. Each thump of Sarah's heart synced with the erratic glow, urging her forward yet warning her of the impending danger. The very air pulsed with an unnatural energy, sticky and hot like breath on her neck, filling her with trepidation. Her feet moved instinctively, and soon she found herself stepping into a small clearing, dominated by an ancient tree that loomed like a dark sentinel. Its twisted branches reached out, contorted and clawing, as if eager to snatch her and pull her into the depths of its bark. Something shimmered at the tree's base, a glint of white that stood starkly against the darkness. "Jamie?" she whispered, her voice trembling as she caught a glimpse of a small figure curled up among the roots. Fear and hope collided violently in her chest, igniting a moment of reckless courage. She sprinted toward the shimmering object, heart pounding deafeningly in her ears. But the moment she neared, the glint vanished, swallowed by the earth. The shadows thickened, creeping along her skin like ice-cold fingers. "No!" Sarah gasped, her breath hitching. "Where are you?" A surge of laughter erupted from the tree, deep and resonant. "He is not here," it mocked, the voice echoing through the clearing. "You will never find him, until you accept what you've lost." Desperation clawed at her mind, drowning her in anguish. "What do you mean?" she shouted, spitting back her fear. "I want to surrender to you." From deep within the twisting bark, forms began to emerge, shapeless figures born from shadows. Echoes of whispers bubbled forth once more, wrapping around her, filling her mind with unsettling images. Her laughter shared with Jamie, the way his eyes sparkled under the sun, the moments before everything fell apart. Each memory twisted viciously, morphing joy into despair. "You're trapped. You always have been," the whispers taunted, echoing her own doubts. "You made choices, and those choices have a price." Stunned, Sarah gripped her head, closing her eyes against the flood of memories. Choices. Each decision that led her here weighed heavily like stones in her chest. Had she ignored the signs? Had she taken Jamie's laughter for granted? No. She screamed, forcing her eyes open. The agony that clawed at her heart only intensified, but she refused to succumb. She had come too far. Jamie needed her. Suddenly, the shadowy figures lunged toward her, arms stretching like dark vines. "Embrace the truth." They howled, their voices a cacophony of anguish and rage, echoing deeper than the very roots of the forest. With a surge of adrenaline, Sarah broke through their mass, pushing past the shadows as they pulled at her limbs. Breathless, she raced to the tree, desperation guiding her hands to its cold bark. "Help me find him," she begged, her voice cracking. "Tell me what I need to do." Silence enveloped her. She felt the tree shudder, trembling under her touch. "Find the heart," it whispered, a flicker of warmth wafting through the chill. "The heart of darkness is your only salvation." Before she could process the words, the forest erupted around her. The whispers escalated into a frenzied tide, drowning her in despair. "You will perish unless you return what has been taken," they chanted, a grim symphony that bled into her thoughts. Around her, shadows gathered, swirling and condensing, darkening the moonlight that filtered through the leaves. Compelled to move, she tore away from the foothold and dashed into the unknown, the glow behind her fading into nothingness. Her mind raced. What was the heart of darkness? And could she bear the truth awaiting her? A sweat-soaked desperation filled her, as she forced herself deeper into the forest. Every step felt like a heartbeat, echoing the urgency that thrummed through her soul. But the laughter returned, echoing cruelly. "You're lost in your own pain. The price will be steep." As Sarah plunged into the shadows, a chilling fear gripped her. What if uncovering the heart of darkness meant uncovering herself? And what if the truth was far worse than she imagined? With the chaos circling her, she pressed forward into the depths of the forest, where each heartbeat could lead to a revelation or her demise. What awaited her in the pitch-black unknown? Would the darkness claim her, or would she reclaim everything that was lost? Branches snapped above her as Sarah surged deeper into the forest, the weight of the unseen pressing heavy on her bones. Each step sank into a carpet of damp leaves and ominous foliage, the crunch beneath her feet a jarring contrast to the unsettling silence around her. Shadows flickered in her periphery, brushing against her vision just enough to unnerve her. "Find the heart," she whispered, forcing the words out like a fragile chant. They echoed back, mocking her resolve, tangled with laughter that ripped through the air like jagged glass. The darkness twisted and writhed, snaring her thoughts, leading her deeper into an abyss that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. The tree's voice lingered in her mind. Heart of darkness. What did that mean? Was it a physical place, like the gnarled roots of the ancient sentinel? Or was it a truth buried within her, something she had buried so deep she dared not uncover? Gasping for breath, she pressed on, drawn by some unseen force that felt both dangerous and essential. Every beat of her heart throbbed with the need to understand, to find Jamie. But with each passing minute, dread coiled tighter around her, whispering insecurities of failure and loss. A flicker of movement caught her eye. She turned, adrenaline surging as she gripped a sturdy branch, ready to defend herself. A flash of white darted into the distance. Hope surged. Was that Jamie? Jamie! She called, voice laced with desperation. The figure paused, just a swirl of light amid the shadows. Sarah! Wait! She took off, thoughts racing wildly. Was it truly him? Or a deceptive mirage conjured by the twisted woods? The white light pulsed again and drifted deeper into the dark, and Sarah followed, weaving through tangled roots and sharp thorns that clawed at her skin. Then the laughter returned, the tree's voice cutting through like a knife. You chase shadows, girl. He is lost to you. Shut up. Sarah shouted, anger igniting her fear. I will find him. She sprinted into the thicket, limbs thrashing against the underbrush, as the shadows surged back, eager to engulf her. Suddenly, she stumbled on a mossy stone, her foot twisting painfully as she fell hard onto the ground. Pain shot through her leg, and she gasped, trying to catch her breath. The shadows closed in, dark tendrils creeping toward her. Embrace the pain, they whispered, wrapping around her limbs, anchoring her down. It is the only way. Trembling, she forced her eyes shut, blocking out the suffocating dread that threatened to overwhelm her. In the darkness behind her eyelids, images of her life flashed, moments with Jamie, glimmers of laughter, but also the bitter weight of every wrong turn. The fractured memories became a kaleidoscope of light and darkness, swirling in a chaotic dance. No! She screamed again, dispelling the horror with a surge of raw emotion. She could claw her way back. She will. Focusing, she searched within her for the strength that lay dormant. The whispers crescendoed, a tumultuous wave crashing against her sanity. Then, she remembered the words of the tree, the heart. With every ounce of strength, she thrust back against the shadows coiling around her, pushing through her fear. I will not lose him. I will find the heart. The darkness recoiled, shrieking as if her words were a flame licking against its shrouded form. The shadows writhed, retreating briefly like a tide pulled back from the shore. And then, amid the chaos, a soft red glow flickered to life ahead of her, pulsating like a heartbeat. Panic surged back as she staggered to her feet, pain shooting through her leg, but the adrenaline masked it. The glowing heart drew her in, fierce and bright, promising a way out of the labyrinth of despair. She had to reach it. As Sarah moved toward the light, a new voice rose, a low, grating growl that settled like ice in her bones. You think you can lay claim to it? To him? The voice slithered through the air, wrapping tightly around her throat. You'll pay for your trespass. She stopped cold, dread settling back over her like a thick fog. The heart pulsed ahead, but the looming darkness was relentless. What price would she have to pay? Was this a final confrontation, or merely another trap? Caught in the conflict of hope and fear, she took a breath, the glow gleaming like a beacon, and stepped toward the promise of salvation or doom. Was she prepared to confront whatever lurked within that glow? Would the truth gift her strength or tear her apart? The heart pulsed violently, a bright crimson beacon that painted the forest in shades of red. As Sarah stumbled forward, her breath hitched, both fear and determination propelling her. Each step felt out of sync, as if the ground beneath her warped with every heartbeat of that unsettling glow. Then it happened. An unearthly howl echoed from the depths of the trees, vibrating through her bones, vibrating with something primal and dark. It sent her mind racing. Was it Jamie? Was it the entity that stole him? Would she meet him in a twisted reunion or pay her dues to the shadows? Enough games! Sarah shouted, her voice cracking as it danced across the eerie silence. Shadows flickered in response, swirling like smoke against her skin, taunting her senses. She clenched her fists, fighting the urge to run, forcing herself to step forward toward the heart's flickering brilliance, willing it to guide her. The laughter returned, this time deeper, more sinister. What will you sacrifice, Sarah? It taunted, almost curious, echoing her worst fears. What are you willing to lose for a broken boy? She gritted her teeth, willed herself to silence the cacophony in her head. The memory of Jamie's laugh, his warm eyes, surged up, lending her strength. I'd give anything. It burst from her lips like a desperate promise. The shadows recoiled again, whispering indecipherable secrets, shifting into grotesque forms that lurked just beyond her sight. The air thickened, crackling with tension as if the very forest held its breath. In that moment, the ground beneath her feet trembled. A dark shape unfurled from the shadows, clawed hands extending toward her. It was there, waiting, a ghastly figure twisted in form, teeth bared, a mix of agony and rage etched across its face. You'll give more than you know, it hissed, the words like poison on her skin. The shadow lunged, swift and relentless, but Sarah was faster, adrenaline pushing her forward. She reached for the glowing heart, my vision narrowing to the pulsating light. It felt alive, the warmth radiating against her palms as she grasped it in both hands. No sooner had she touched it than a violent shock coursed through her, shattering her senses. Visions exploded inside her mind, shadows consuming laughter, images of Jamie, terrified and alone, begging for help. The warmth of the heart transformed into icy fire, cutting through her scream. Choose, the voice crooned from the darkness, echoing dimly. Your destiny or his. Panic solidified into a pounding rhythm in her chest. Every beat reminded her of Jamie's absence, of moments stolen by the dark. I choose to save him. She cried, but the words felt hollow against the rising tide of hatred surrounding her. The heart blazed brighter, and for a heartbeat, everything felt suspended in a chaotic silence. But then the shadows surged forward, swirling as they closed in around her, dragging her down. Foolish girl. They howled in unison. You think love can conquer the dark? Struggling to rise, she felt the grip of despair clawing at her throat. And yet, the heart throbbed steadily, pushing back against the encroaching darkness. It whispered to her in a voice that felt both foreign and familiar, countering the malignancy. Find the truth, it lies within. The darkness recoiled, but not before its claws sank into her thoughts. She gasped, what was the truth? What was she missing? The swirling chaos dissipated for a moment, leaving behind hot breath and silence. Suddenly, behind her, a familiar voice broke through the murk. Sarah! Help me! It was Jamie. Her heart surged with relief and panic. She turned, searching, desperate. Shadows remained thick, but his voice pierced through like a siren, guiding her to the edge of despair. Stay with me. In that moment, would she abandon everything for love? Would she trust the pull of the heart, the pull of the shadows, both promising salvation but asking the price in blood? Would she find Jamie, or would she lose herself in the dark embrace of the forest that threatened to consume them both? Straddling the line between salvation and sacrifice, Sarah took a breath, ready to dive into the unknown, ready to uncover whatever sinister truth awaited her. But could she face what lay ahead, or would she drown beneath the weight of her decisions? The shadows twisted around Sarah, tightening like a noose. Each breath felt heavier as she strained to hear Jamie's voice, each echo a tether pulling her deeper into the suffocating darkness. She could almost feel the cold grip of the shadows clutching at her ankles, dragging her into abyss. She fought against it, heart racing as desperation surged within her. Sarah. Please. I'm scared. Jamie's voice came again, closer this time, tinged with panic. Hang on, Jamie. She called back, voice breaking. I'm coming. The heart pulsed in her hands, a warmth fighting against freezing dread that surrounded her. She took a step forward, willing the shadows to yield, willing the pulsing light to guide her through the maze of despair. Foolish girl, the dark voice jeered, slithering into her head. What do you know of sacrifice? What do you really want? No. She screamed, shaking her head violently, refusing to let doubt creep in. She knew what she wanted. Ahead, the darkness shifted, revealing glimpses of a familiar figure crouched among the gnarled roots of an ancient tree. Jamie? Her heart leapt before plunging into dread as the shadows closed in around him, wrapping like snakes. Help! She lunged, determination eclipsing fear. The heart's light flared brighter at her touch, casting bizarre shadows that flickered against the gnarled bark. But the moment was fleeting. The entity emerged, a looming figure formed from nothing but malice. It was moving through the shadows, closer to Jamie, its claws glinting like silver in the dim glow. Let him go. Sarah screamed, but the chilling laughter echoed back, slicing through her resolve. You think you can stop me? You want him? Then prove it. The creature's eyes glinted with dark amusement, a void drawing her in. She felt the heart pulse stronger, its rhythm syncing with her heart, a metronome of her resolve. What do I have to do? She shouted, desperate. Everything. The shadows writhed, and Sarah felt her grip on reality slipping. Images flashed before her mind, twisted paths leading to twisted fates, her own worst fears becoming reality. Jamie crying, lost to the dark. Would he truly perish if she didn't act? The thought ignited a fire in her belly, spurring her onward. She would not let him go. I choose him. She roared, eyes locked on the writhing darkness that dared to threaten him. Take me instead. The dark figure paused, tilting its head. Ah, what a tempting offer, but is it enough? It lowered its claws, dragging them across the ground like a whisper of death. What will you give in exchange? Anything. She cried, voice raw, knowing the weight of her words. I'll do anything. And then, the ground shook. Not from fear, but from the sheer ferocity of her heart. The shadows bulged, roiling ominously, as tendrils of darkness reached closer, whispering secrets laced with venom. Jamie's terrified gaze locked onto hers, pleading. Sarah, don't. You don't know what you might lose. But the darkness slithered closer, pulling her resolve as if testing her, trying to expose every inch of her vulnerability. The heart in her hands blazed like a beacon, illuminating the nightmare surrounding them yet barely keeping the shadows at bay. Sarah took a deep, shuddering breath, compelled by Jamie's plea and the relentless pressure of despair. She could feel the weight of decision stacking like stones in her stomach. Would she truly unravel herself to save him? In that crucial moment, Sarah's mind flashed back to a time before all this, a warm day in the park, laughter spilling like sunlight. Suddenly, realization struck like lightning. What if I don't have to choose? Confusion blurred in the shadows, hesitation rippling through the darkness. Would love be enough to bend the unseen forces? But something shifted, the shadows sneering at her new resolve. You think meaning is found in the light? No, it lies within the dark. The ground trembled again, and Sarah felt an unsettling churn in her gut, visions of the heart unraveling. What else would she have to give? Would she lose herself entirely? Sarah! Jamie! Cried again, but the shadows pulled tighter, suffocating any hope. The heart dimmed. In those final moments, she was faced with a twisted question: was the truth worth the price? As darkness closed in, and the heart flickered like a dying star, an edge of fear clenched around her, chilling her deepest hopes. What awaited her in that abyss? Would she fall into nightmares or rise anew? As the shadows quaked with anticipation, Sarah braced for the storm. And the ground beneath her cracked, releasing a shocking echo of despair. The ground convulsed beneath Sarah, sending shockwaves of terror spiraling up her spine. Fear wrapped around her heart, but she couldn't let it overwhelm her. Just ahead, amid the shaking earth, a sliver of light broke through the oppressive shadows. Jamie! She cried, forcing her feet to move, each step weighted with both dread and determination. The heart pulsed against her palms, sending warm waves of energy coursing through her, unfurling courage deep within. She wouldn't let fear dictate her fate any longer. She refused to let the shadow consume them. The darkness hissed, 1,000 voices melding into an angry wail, as the tendrils inched closer, clinging with icy fingers. What will you sacrifice? It shrieked, taunting her, seeking to unravel her resolve. But Sarah felt it, the unmistakable warmth of the heart guiding her, igniting memories of love and joy, of days spent laughing with Jamie under the sun. I will not give in. She shouted defiantly, eyes shining with fierce determination. I will not abandon my son. Glimmers of courage bursting forth, she pushed toward the light, her heart a steady drum in her chest, summoning whatever strength she could muster. With a final heave, she reached the clearing, the heart's illumination brightening with her resolve. There, tangled in the roots, was Jamie, his wide, innocent eyes clouded with fear, yet still flickering with a hint of recognition. Mommy! He cried out, the sound both a plea and a tether pulled between them. Hold on, baby! I'm coming! The shadows shrieked, agitated now, swirling with fury as they tried to drag her down into their cold embrace. But as Sarah approached, the brilliance of the heart surged, and branches that had once loomed threateningly began to bend, whispering words of comfort. Find the heart, reclaim what was lost. With each step, Sarah summoned the light within her, the raw emotion of a mother's love igniting every fiber of her being. Let him go. He belongs to the light, not to you, she shouted into the darkness, and all at once, the tide of shadows faltered. In that moment, she realized the heart wasn't just a source of light, it was their bond, the love and memories they shared, crafted through every innocent laugh, every tender hug, and every moment of joy. The power was not just in the heart itself, but in her belief that love could vanquish the darkness. With a roar, Sarah lunged forward, stretching her arms wide for Jamie. Her heartbeat synced with the pulsing light, igniting embers of warmth in the shadows surrounding them. Jamie! She screamed, reaching out for him. As her fingers grazed his, a shockwave surged through the forest. The shadows screamed, their forms rippling as if the very fabric of fear was tearing. No! The dark voice shrieked, the anger amplifying into a frenzy. In that instant, the heart exploded with brilliance, illuminating the clearing and banishing the shadows that clung so tightly. The cold tendrils retreated, swirling in panic as the light enveloped them in a cascade of warmth and protection, and the echoes of despair faded to a whisper. Mommy! Jamie's clear voice broke through the chaos, pulling her from the void of shadows. She swept him into her arms, and together, they stood firm as light washed over them, banishing the remnants of fear and despair. Their connection pulsed with life, powerful enough to drown out the dark's lingering echoes. As the shadows dissipated, a soft breeze rustled through the trees, the forest sighing in relief. The haunting presence that had threatened their safety melted away, leaving only the unbroken bond of a mother's love and a son's laughter. Sarah looked down at Jamie, who gazed back at her with wide, innocent eyes, shining bright with life. "We did it," she whispered, tears of relief spilling down her cheeks. "We're safe." The clearing transformed, revealing lush greenery that glistened under the sun, vibrant with life. The curse of the woods had shattered, and standing united, they had emerged from darkness into the light. As they turned to leave, the ancient tree behind them stood. Tall, its branches now softened by the radiant glow, a sentinel no longer shrouded in malevolence. It whispered a gentle farewell, its once malevolent reputation redeemed by the love that transcended fear. In the distance, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over Pine Hollow. With Jamie's little hand gripping hers, Sarah breathed deeply, finally free from the grip of despair. Together, they stepped out of the woods, leaving behind the suffocating shadows, embracing the promise of brighter tomorrows. And so, Sarah learned that love, unwavering and fierce, could conquer even the most cursed of nights. If you've enjoyed this thrilling tale, then this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now and be part of our community. You don't want to miss the next exclusive stories we've got brewing. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us reach even more people who crave these adventures. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. What would you do if you were in Sarah's shoes? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how love can shine through even the darkest shadows. Thanks for watching, and we can't wait to bring you more electrifying tales soon.